All right, welcome to another edition of International Soccer Break. I'm your host Sahil here with Bik and Rahi, and we are reviewing India's big game last night against Uzbekistan. Safe to say, boys, wasn't what we were all looking forward to.
Not at all. All the good feelings from a gritty performance against Australia, and then that against Uzbekistan. I gotta say, I'm disappointed on so many levels. A comedy of errors, Bick.
Yeah, I think we had the same thing happen with the Qatar match, right? We got our hopes up after the win against Kuwait, and then came crashing down. Yeah, I mean it was like the title says, shambolic defending, too many defensive errors, and there were some good moments, but clearly not enough to make up for the bad ones.
It's funny, Bick, you mentioned that Qatar game because this reminded me a lot of that match. And same story, comes off a promising, result against Kuwait. And then the next game comes into this. I thought the defending in this game was absolutely atrocious. I mean, the first goal, we praised Sandesh Jingan in the first match. He's caught basically just ball watching. I don't know if that was Gurpreet's mistake or the commentators were a little bit letting him off the hook for that play, but I looked at it and I'm like, a goalie in that situation, I think, needs to be a little bit more decisive. I don't know what you guys think on that first goal.
He could have come out much stronger on that goal. And then Manveer Singh, right, is playing that forward who scores onside, right? He should step up. He doesn't step up. So there's multiple mistakes. And that's the thing. The second goal, also a mistake. Rahul Beke could have cleared the ball, instead tries to dribble through and then loses the ball in the center of the field. The third goal, also a mistake, a really simple cross in. I think it's Manveer again who loses his mark on the far post. Individual errors, really. Individual errors that let India down.
Yeah, I mean, it was atrocious, Bick. I mean, it was atrocious.
Yeah. Look, I mean, as an ex-goalkeeper, you are in charge of you're in charge of the box. You're in charge of the defense. So I think some blame has to lie with Gurpreet as well for the first one. But Manveer was the one, to blame there. Like left the guy onside. They were all putting their hands up for the offside. The guy was clearly onside, and Manveer was the reason why he was onside. And yeah, the third goal as well, his body was all over the place.
Even on the third goal, I thought Sandesh Jingan again was ball watching a little bit in that play.
But he's playing the other forward. I don't think.
But why? There's no danger coming from there.
The other guy jumped. They jumped together. I think that's not on him at all.
I think that was more Manveer.
I don't know. I thought for the guy who's supposed to be the head of the defense and such a stalwart in the last match, I thought he was a little bit slow on a couple plays this game. But that was just sort of testament to, I think, the defense as a whole.
Yeah, but before we dwell into the negative and they did some things. Remember, before this game, we asked them. We wanted them to be brave. We wanted them to show more intent. We wanted them to attack. They did all those three things. And but for two incredible saves by the Uzbeki goalie and a crossbar, they certainly should have scored in the second half. They should have found a way. They had more possession in the second half. So they did a lot of the things that we asked, Vic.
Yeah, I thought one of the things we've spoken about a couple of times is them showing fight, and they consistently showed that. Again, didn't let their heads drop. I think Steve Matches definitely had an impact in that sense. And yeah, I was actually quite pleased with the second half performance. It gives me a bit of hope. I don't know if that's the best thing in the world going forward, but I think they created like a lot of chances, and there were a couple where I genuinely I got off my seat thinking, okay, this is going in.
Yeah,
I thought they did really well in the second half.
Agreed. Mishra down the wing did a couple things. I thought the sub that came in did a great job. Rahul. Then they also, I think, at times missed Changte. Certainly, his absence was felt. I think he had a late knock picked up right before the game. So there were some players that were missing. But I did like some of the things they showed in the second half. They kept coming at times. Even the end of the first half, to be honest. That goal came against the run of play at the end of the first half. They were in and around the Uzbeki box. They had some pressure building. There were a couple corner kicks. And then the goal, which makes it so disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even the second goal, right? Like that was not necessarily a counter-attack, but it was, India attacking and then the ball being taken from them. So it wasn't like Uzbekistan were putting like tons of crosses in, tons and tons of pressure. It was defensive mistakes a couple of times against a run of play.
But do you think the approach to this game was a little bit off? And this is what I think happened a little bit. Yes, I agree with you guys. Like I saw a lot more attacking, prowess by India. They should have scored just a couple. Like Chaitri had a couple good chances as well that maybe he should have put away, and some good saves by the Uzbeki goalie. So. But the approach to this game was very much like, okay, against Australia, we played a very tight, compact game. Let's open it up a little bit. Let's be more creative. I don't know if that's the best thing to do in a tournament like this, right? I thought there was too much space in the midfield.
Yeah, it depends on what your objective is. And if your objective is, as Stimac has said, to prepare his players for the qualifiers and to use this tournament as exposure to high level of opposition, then I think this is fine because he clearly said before the game, we want players that are going to attack in this game. We're going to come out with more intent. Is it going to get you the result? Maybe not. And it didn't in the end. Is it going to get you out of the group? Maybe not. Does this bode well moving forward that we can get out and attack against an elite opponent? Maybe. If that's your objective, then I understand it.
Yeah, I think I actually agree with both of you. I think in the context of this tournament, it was naive. They should have played the same way they did against Australia. In the context of this tournament plus the qualifiers, and then bearing in mind the qualifiers, as we've all said, are more important. It's not the worst idea. So I think it really depends on what timeline you're looking at. I was just thinking about it, like if we had the first half that we had against Australia and the second half that against Uzbekistan, that's a perfect game for India. That's what they should be doing, right? Absorb pressure, put some back. Maybe that's what they'll do against Syria, or maybe it'll be the other way around. They'll lose 5-0.
Well, so let's talk about that because we're not out despite losing 2 matches.
Yeah.
This is the crazy part. Despite losing 2 matches, India is not out of the tournament yet, right?
Yeah.
So now let's put this past game to bed and say, okay, how do we approach the Syria game? Because we all watched the Syria Australia match, and Syria looked good. I mean, Australia was lucky to win that match, but the win, gives a shot for India to move forward. So basically, you need to win this match to move forward. How do they go about doing it?
I think it's a hybrid approach. It's taking the best of both of these games because against Australia, they were very disciplined defensively, but it's a little bit easier to be disciplined defensively when you sit back, when the game is in front of you. And then we saw when you come out and play, it becomes much more difficult to remember where you are and how to be positioned properly. It's got to be, I think, a little bit of the Australia approach to start. We have to survive early because conceding early like we did against Uzbekistan is a recipe for disaster. We saw that against Qatar as well. We cannot do that. So I think you have to reverse it. I think we came out too aggressive in this game early on. I think you try and absorb and hope that it works and then come out later in the game. So it's really what you said. It's the perfect game. It's the combination of both.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've got to remember, Syria have got 1 point. They are favorites to finish third. They are better than India. So there is more pressure on them, and there's pressure on them to get the 3 points. Whereas if, let's say, India come away with a 0-0, it's actually not the worst result in the world. So basically the onus would be on Syria to attack. So I think for that reason, India should look back to the Australia game. That's how they should start. And then if they are 0-0 at halftime, then I think go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the difficult part is I think this game has to be a perfect game, but I think it is the least tough, if you want to say. I mean, like we said, Syria looked great, but it's the least tough of the opponents we've played so far, right? I mean, Rahi, you and I, obviously, our other team is the US, and we saw them play against Uzbekistan, and for a lot of that match, Uzbekistan actually played a pretty good game against a team as good as the US. So, for India to come out in this match and expect, okay, we're going to boss these guys or something like that, or show, a little bit more, this is a top 10 ranked Asian team. Syria is a little bit closer to us. So are you both expecting more from this game?
Yes, I am expecting. And also, you don't want to leave a tournament without a goal, right? You don't want to go into a tournament as big as this one and leave without scoring, without any moments of magic, because you alluded to the last time we talked. So I think that you have to try and seize some moments against the weakest of the opponents you have played. That's a fact. At the same time, you can't concede early. So it's going to be this balance of trying to weather some early portion of the game. But at a certain point when we're going through, you have to try and give the Indian fans in that stadium something to cheer about.
Yeah. And look, again, if it's heading towards a draw in the last 15 minutes, I just said actually we'll take a 0-0, but at that point it's like, well, we're not going to go through because we're going to finish fourth in the group. So you might as well try and get a goal, and if by doing that you lose, it's fine because there is also a chance you can score one and then get an unlikely win. So yeah, I think they'll have to find that balance. But Syria, like you said, Syria looked good. They actually, Australia initially dominated, but then Syria came back, and then Australia got a goal like they did against India. But then Syria showed fight for like most of the match, and they were sort of creating several chances. So it's not going to be easy. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I think, look, that you approach this as a one-off game, a tournament game. Don't try to learn anything from this. Just try to get through as you would in a major tournament. Use the Morocco approach during the World Cup, where you play tight defense, you play compact, you score a goal, off a break or something like that, and then you move on to the next round. So I think we'll all be excited about that. Yeah,
you try to win. Ultimately, what we're saying by defending is not don't try and win. You try to win the game. You just do so in a little bit more disciplined fashion. But ultimately, that's what you need. And there are still 3 points out there. Syria is a better team, yes, but 3 points can be gotten. And if they are gotten, you could make it out of this group.
Yeah. I would say if you get those 3 points, India will probably be making it on to the next round. So, all right, boys, we're all excited. Let's put this one behind us. This was the one bad one that we had in the Asian Cup. So let's all move forward. We'll get the crew back together after that match and keep watching the Indian team at the Asian Cup. Chuck the India. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay.